Hi everyone, this will be the first episode of our reviewing of my old versions. Right now, so when I put up the original advertisement kind of post for the game, that was me working on the fourth version of the Loveletter Series. Luckily I still have all the other versions, but I thought it'd be good to catch up on the development cycle for this game. Mainly because I've yet to do a devlog, and I am hoping to continue to do that. So this will have minimal editing, but I want to show the game how it's progressed. Plain and simple what I want to do first. So originally, I did have the starting town Aho. I wanted to make sure that I had something where I could test a lot of things off the bat, and I do plan for it to be the major starting town that the player arrives in. You can see that the player sprites and this building in particular, a little bit different. I didn't like the perspective that this building gave, especially when you're up around, 45 to 60 degrees camera-wise, and I ended up changing that later on down the road. Pixels, these guys, I got some complaints from the one time one of my friends actually reviewed the game, so I decided to change it up. He's yet to say anything about the new models, and no one has said anything, so I'm thinking that they're alright. They're definitely much higher res, and that's kind of nice. If I had an infinite budget, they'd probably just be drawn, but I'm not an artist, and I don't have that kind of time. But even in this version, I had a pretty decent walking cycle, so even when I changed sprites, it wasn't really that bad. All I had to do was literally just switch out 12 different sprites in areas. The major problem was, we'll get to that later. The major problem was diagonals look atrocious. So the animation only checked to see if you were on the horizontal or vertical axis. So when you're doing a diagonal, it constantly switched in between the two and ended up looking like this man's having a seizure. Nowadays I have it so that I believe I made a horizontal overpower vertical, so you will always be walking this way if you're doing a diagonal. But aside from that, the movement itself hasn't changed much. I know I played with speed a little bit, but yeah, that's about it. Items, I did have an idea of what to do in the game, but as you can see, you don't interact with stuff the normal way. You had to go over to a set distance and then click on the item before it activated. I can see why that messed people up, or why it messed my friend up, and I went for the collision detection route instead. That way maybe you can play without a mouse. I'm still trying to work out the bugs for the battling in Loveletter, but that'll probably come later, more towards the release of the game. Few other things. Well, I suppose one other thing. The background sprite for this changed to thicker text. You guys, if you played early enough, might have version 3, which still has this, I think? But we'll get to that. I'm still going one by one. It worked very much the same. Items disappeared, but there is no real bag display, and you didn't move initially. I don't remember why I got rid of that, but I kind of like it, kind of don't. I'm still deciding whether or not I want a player to move during menus. Now the Apacies, that tier list, it does display everything that Myriad's stats are when you initially spawn. It will change. However, there was no party system, and Myriad was the only Apacies, so I could force that particular starter to spawn here and nowhere else. And that caused me to really skimp out on fights. I could spawn the sprites, especially because I was reworking everything from Battler and putting it into Loveletter, correcting all sorts of mistakes and problems I made. I didn't have enough ready by the initial release, so I went with bare bones. I knew combat wasn't going to be a thing yet, so I just wanted to make sure that people could see what type of combat I wanted to do. And as you can see, it was still level capped, like the battler is. And then because I wasn't working on battling, I didn't have to worry about keeping the player's position. Every time I went into a battle, it opened up a new scene. It is completely reloading the scene. I would load up the old scene, or I'd load up the battling scene, and then completely delete the first one, then reload the first one. And that's the problems I was having. Talking to NPCs was roughly the same. Still have Clyde. I believe every interaction changed in Update 2, and I wanted to do the same for 3, but I ended up adding a whole lot to 3, and I didn't really end up doing that. I will eventually for 4, that'll come later. And of course, Abbott, shilling my game, I appreciate it. A lot of the backgrounds has changed. I changed the default background to black instead of blue, just because it gives a more distanced feeling. And yeah, these are still loaded. I think they're still loaded in the regular game. But a lot of the things, I set the groundwork pretty well, but there's no distinction between spawning areas and non-spawning areas like I did the little posts. So if you just walk over, you spawn, and how are players supposed to know that? There's no north or south direction either. Outside of the town, it is completely cut off, its own little area. And because spawning and fighting is a real pain in this version, I wonder how many people actually got to the person in this mine originally. That guy down there. Because I can't make it through there. And I think it was so lackluster because it was something along the lines of, oh, I can't continue down this way, it's blocked by rocks. And then the next update's, this area is clear and you can access another half of the cave. I don't know why oh god. Oh no. And then my teleporting can get buggy like that. At least you know that you can always return back to town the glitched way. Aside from that, not much has changed. There's still no save, there's no leader menu. In fact, some of these didn't close correctly, and I'm still working on that. Honestly, it's just laziness. You have to add everything else to close at the same time. Yeah, I'll get to that, I promise. But same pause menu and stuff like that. Not a whole lot to go over in this game. So in the next little bit, we'll look at version 2 and see how... Honestly, this is a lot to do in version 1. I wonder how much progress I made in version 2. I kinda know and I kinda don't. It all blurs together for me. We'll see you then.